Hey, folks, thanks for being here. I'm very excited to have a super cool guest with me today to talk about communicating with angels. So, welcome to the show, Cristina Aroche.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about all things angels.
Awesome. So, before we get into the discussion, I would love for you to share something you would like people to know about you today.
Ooh, I love that question. Right off the bat, like going deep, I feel like. The thing that I want people to know about me is that when it comes to, I feel like connecting with angels, when it comes to spirituality, I was one of those people that I didn't have a connection from when I was little. You hear some stories that people hear, saying that they've had connections since they were young. I thought that you had to be special in order to be able to communicate and be able to have a deep spiritual connection. But my own journey proved to me that that's not true. And I want people to know that even though through my work and the things I do, people think like, wow, like what you do is something really special and something very unique. And yes, it is, but also everyone has the ability to deepen their spiritual connection. And I'm no exception. I'm just like everyone else. And if you are wanting to develop that, if you're curious, if you've been getting signs or just having that knowing that there's something bigger out there, then I definitely encourage you to explore it because it means that there's something there for you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I love it because it really just leads us into one of the first things I wanted to ask you, which was how and when you realized you could communicate with angels. And you just talked a little bit about how it's not this gift you were born with, but something you sort of developed and stepped into. So, can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, that started in, well, I would say honestly, my spiritual development path and kind of curiosity path started in around 2015, where I was just spiritually curious, meaning that for the first time, I kind of started to think about, oh, there is something greater out there than just me, like the universe, and that there's spiritual energy and things like that. And so I was just kind of reading books and curious and things like that. And that started in 2015. But it wasn't until the end of 2016 when I hired a spiritual mentor to support me with my just overall spiritual development. And at that time, what I was really focusing on was I really want to align with my soul and what my soul's purpose is and who I am. And and then in working with her, I was introduced like through a meditative journey that she guided me on, introduced to Archangel Raphael. And that was the first time that I ever connected with any angelic being or even was aware, like, whoa, we can connect with energy. And I still remember that presence was just this like bright, beautiful light in that meditative experience. And so that was the first time that I ever even felt that or experienced it in that way. And then after that, I was, aside from our sessions, I was still doing my own practice and I started to feel their presence more and more. And I remember specifically one night, like I said, this is the end of 2016, where I went to bed and I closed my eyes. And it was like immediately I could feel the room. It felt like it was filled with this green energy. It just felt as though the whole room was green. And I was like, what is that? What is happening? And in that moment, I also knew, it's like I felt and knew that that was Archangel Raphael, and he does come through in a green energy. And so that was the beginning of that journey where I began to, because I was open to it, and because I started to explore that connection, it started to appear in my life. And and then I just kind of went from there. I would meditate with them, they would come through, connect, and then eventually they led me to understanding that this was the work that I was here to do. I was here to bring through angel messages and teach people about angels and support them in their connections. So kind of that's like the very, very short version of that story, but it all really started through my curiosity and exploring that on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned curiosity. And I think that's how we can become more open to some of these ideas, like spirituality and talking with angels, not necessarily talking, let's say communicating, because I'm sure it looks different for everyone. So, what is it? I know you mentioned, some colors and energy. So can you talk about what the your communication with angels typically looks like or feels like, or if you were to describe it to someone? And is it different depending on which angel is coming through to communicate with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right, it is different for every person. Everyone is going to have their own unique way of communicating with angels, feeling their presence, feeling their energy, which is a huge thing that I emphasize when I'm teaching people and mentoring them in their spiritual connection is trust how it comes through for you. So that's the most important thing. So for me, it honestly comes through as a combination of things. So there's something called the clairs, which is our abilities or senses that are outside of our physical senses. So for example, there's clairvoyance, which I'm sure, maybe you've heard of, where it's being able to see in your vision, in your mind's eye, like when you close your eyes and you're visually seeing something in your imagination or maybe in front of you. So that's one example. And so when it comes to how the angels come through, I would say clairvoyance is actually my strongest, where immediately in my mind, I see their energy. And so when I see the angels, I don't see them like you might typically see depicted, like a human figure with angel wings kind of a thing. It's more so just energy. I just see it as a ball of energy, but I sense and I know, which is claircognizance, when you just have this knowing, this feeling, intuitive knowing, and you don't know why you know it, but you just do. So then the claircognizance comes in, and it's like I can sense that that's an angelic presence, and I know, oh, that's Archangel Raphael, for example. So it kind of works in combination in that way. Then when I am working with people or even just for myself, I will hear words. So I'll hear, and that's clairaudience. And and so sometimes I'll hear things, sometimes I don't. So I don't always hear. It's not like they're directly like, spewing out and telling all these things to me. Usually it's like a word that I keep hearing or a phrase that comes through. And so it just kind of comes in as this mishmash and this combination of seeing, feeling, knowing, hearing, and depending on the context of the situation, depending on what I'm talking about, depending on the person that I'm working with, it'll come through in many different ways. And then to just go to your question or to your point around, does it come through differently depending on the angel? The main difference that I would say that I've noticed when it comes to differences between angels is really about the types of angels. So, for example, archangels, I just described to you. I see it as this ball of energy and it kind of first comes into my mind's eye. I notice the color, I know who it is, etc. When I'm doing guardian angel readings for people and talking about their guardian angels specifically, which are different than archangels, I do separate the two. With guardian angels, they actually come through in a bit more of a human type persona, we can call it, I guess, where I will sometimes, this isn't always the case, but I will sometimes see certain features about them that are more human-like. So for example, I might feel like they have brown, long brown hair or something like that. Or that they have, I've seen like kind of older, like kind of like almost like a white beard type of a thing, like a wizard type of vibe, So they'll come through in those different types of human-like features, but that's more guardian angels, which are, our personal angelic guides. And I feel like that happens because they are closer to us, like they are your angelic guides. So they have this more human personification to them, probably for our benefit, probably to help us in connecting with them on a deeper level. But that's the main difference that I would say that I've noticed when it comes to connecting with the angels.
Yeah. So, you mentioned something that, it's not this image of, just the, like we think of an angel when we picture an angel is this woman and maybe like long white and big white angel wings. And I don't even know where that came from, but that, that kind of image has
Right.
been around for so long. Like that's what people think of when they think about angels. So, um, that leads me into another question, which is, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you've come across from people about angels. Like I would say that's one.
Yeah, it
Right.
totally is. Yes, exactly. That is definitely one of them. I would say another one is I've noticed for a lot of people when it comes to calling on angels to support them or to pray to them or whatever, that they almost feel like, oh, I shouldn't bother them. Like almost like we're a bother to them or like, they have something better to do. Like it's okay. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out myself. Like that kind of energy. And I always say, no, it's okay. They are here to help us and you're not bothering them and they're not annoyed by you or anything like that, where it's, their purpose is here to support us and they are energy. We have to remember, I think the other thing too is that we, again, personify this human aspect where we think they can only do one thing at a time, but they are energy, which means that they are not bound by space or time, which means that 100 people could be calling on Archangel Michael at the same time, and he can help all of them at the same time. It's not like, okay, get in line, like I'll help you when I'm done over here, it's just a whole different way, and I think it's mind-boggling sometimes to even think about it, but there's just this whole different way in which they support us, and we are not annoying them, we are not bothering them. So I would say that's one misconception. Another one is that oftentimes people think that we only have one guardian angel. And I think that whether it's, I don't know, through media, through just culture, whatever it is, that there's this idea that we only have one guardian angel, but we actually have multiple. Honestly, the most common number that I see is three, four, or even five that people have, and they have different roles and they have different positions where they stand around you and things like that. So, guardian angels, they are way more than I think what we have typically thought of them, that they're just here to protect us and like the guardian, but really they have a lot of different roles, like for example, supporting you in pursuing your purpose or supporting people like people who are more artistic, maybe with their artistic skills and things like that. So guardian angels have specific roles to help you, and you have more than one. And the last thing that I'll just share in terms of misconception, which we kind of talked a little bit already, touched on a little bit, which is that angels will only appear in one specific way. Like, for example, they only appear in this form or in this color, for example, whereas the reality is that they will appear in a way that is most suited to you in terms of connecting with you. So, as an example, I've had people share with me that, Archangel Gabriel or another one is Archangel Uriel. Some people perceive that angel as a more of a feminine energy versus a masculine energy. So I perceive both of those as masculine most of the time, but some people perceive them as feminine energies. And the reason why there's a different perception is simply because of how they show up, what frequency they're holding to support you specifically. So there's no only one way that an angel will show up or a one color that they're supposed to have. I share about colors through, my online work and in my videos and things like that, but as a guideline, but not as a rule. It's not like this is the only way that they're going to show up. So that would be the third one that I wanted to share.
Thank you. Yeah, something stood out for me that you said, actually in the last, when you answered the last question, but you said, trust how it comes through for you. And I think that's super important because I think our brains, and our egos, they kind of dismiss a lot of messages that come through because we're like, no,
Absolutely.
that's not, that doesn't make
Yes.
sense. So, you know, um, I'm sure angels are talking to me all day long and I'm just like dismissing it because my brain gets in the way and it's like, no, no, no. So I love that idea of, trusting what comes through for you and honoring that. When a message does come through for you, um, telling you to do a certain thing or go a certain way or, listen to this, just give it a second and
Yes,
trust it,
exactly.
right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
so hard because sometimes our mind wants it to make a logical sense, or it's not part of the plan. It's not what I planned. This is throwing me off of my plan, but it's exactly like you said. Give it a second and just really allow yourself to be with whatever the message is, to just feel it and feel into it and see what it take that so-called risk to just try what that message was, and then it'll show to you like, oh, actually I should listen to that more often, you know?
Yeah. I love how you said feel into it. And I think that's the problem with most of us humans is we don't let ourselves feel anything. We just think it, like you just
Yeah,
said, things we need things to make sense. We need them to be logical. We need to be able to put it on paper and for everything to add up the right way.
exactly.
And we need to feel more.
Yes.
And the more we
Yeah.
do and allow, like you're saying, allow a message to come through, I would imagine more are going to start coming through. Or maybe not more coming through, but we're going to hear more, right?
Yeah.
Would you say it's more that issue?
Yeah. You know what's funny is as you said that, I just got chills, which to me is like a confirmation of, oh yeah, we're on the right track here. And yes, I definitely agree. It's more so that you become more aware of what's already there. And
Mm,
so it appears as though more messages are coming through or that it's more clear, but really it's simply because you're more attuned to it now and you're expanding your awareness, which then opens you up to more of those messages and more of that type of guidance and leaning into that support.
yeah. So, since we're talking about the brain here and how the brain gets in the way, I'm curious how you would suggest we distinguish between angelic messages and our own thoughts and or even how you do it or how you've learned to do it. I imagine it's the kind of thing that's a practice, right?
Yes, it definitely is. It's a practice. And as you practice it, you start to over time begin to see the subtle nuances and the differences between what your ego's voice sounds like, your mind's voice sounds like, versus what an angelic voice or guidance sounds like. And the key things that I would say is that, first of all, when it comes to any sort of angelic guidance, message, nudge, anything like that, it never feels pressing in the sense of it doesn't feel like FOMO. Oftentimes when our mind is like trying to get us to do something, there's this FOMO energy, like if I don't do it now, I'm gonna miss out on something, or I'm gonna lose out, or I'm gonna fail, or whatever the case is. But there's this pressure energy that comes in
Mm-hmm.
that is very much linked to the energy of scarcity in some shape or form, like I'm gonna miss out in some way. Whereas angelic guidance is very subtle and very just factual, like not factual, but to the point. Like it's very just like, this is the thing, and that's it. Whereas the mind stuff is like over this and overthinking and all these loops and this way, that way, that way. So if you notice yourself overthinking, like having all these different, this complexity to it. It likes to complicate things. It likes to overanalyze. So there's that analytical side to it. That's not angelic guidance. Angelic guidance is very simple and very straight to the point and very soft, not that like hard push. We have to do it now. Otherwise, we're gonna miss out. I would say that's the biggest things to look out for. The other thing that I would suggest too that I find super helpful is before, let's say, if you're wanting to start a meditative practice or you are, whatever your spiritual practice is, honestly, before you do it, it's to grab a piece of paper and just write out your thoughts. Like, even if you're just thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Like, maybe I should do this, I need to do that, like your to-do list, what you're worried about, what you're afraid of, all the things that are kind of taking up space right now, taking up energetic space in your mind. To just write it out because I find that that's a way where we can really clear our minds so that it doesn't interfere. And the more that we can remove any interference, the more clear angelic guidance will come through without getting disrupted or, kind of like that energy where now it's changed a little bit and now it's not actually the true divine message that's wanting to come through. So I would suggest writing it out, writing out your thoughts. I call it brain dumping. You just dump everything out and then take a moment, connect to your breath, connect to your body, and then from there, you can even, on this topic, I'll just share too that then you can even feel into, let's say you received guidance, you did the brain dump, and then after the brain dump, you take a moment, you breathe, breathe in, tune into your body, and then whatever that guidance is, I imagine it as though I'm holding it or like I'm taking it in. And then I notice in my body, does my body feel expansive, like as though it just relaxed and got expansive? If so, then that's divine guidance. If my body just contracted and went like just completely closed off, that's not divine guidance. So that's the other way that you can do like an actual practice on the spot to help you with that.
Yeah, I love that. That's really easy, simple. Like that's something I feel like anyone can understand and practice if this is something they want to explore. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like the idea of the brain dump. And you actually, I know that you do that as part of your, there's meditation. I got you free meditation, which was lovely. And
Oh,
you do
thank
that
you.
in the beginning as like, hey, write your things down, kind of empty out. And I
Yes.
think that's a cool way to kind of prepare and get some of that, get some of the noise out of your head.
Exactly. Yes. That's a great
Yeah.
way to describe it. Noise. It's
Yeah.
noise. And when
It's
it's
noise.
too noisy, it's hard to hear, right? If someone's whispering to you, but there's loud noise all around, you're not going to hear what they're saying. So turn the
Yeah.
noise down and then you'll hear what they're saying.
Yeah. I usually think about intuitive messages or spiritual messages as I kind of think of it as my brain is like like this room. It's just filled with like hundreds of people and they're all talking at the same time. And on the other side of the room is this guide or someone that's telling me something. I'm not going to hear it. I'm not going to hear it
Yes,
until I clear out the room.
exactly.
I got to
That's
get
such
the I got to get the people out of the room. And then I can
yes, exactly.
yeah. So I like that visual, but when we talk about noise, like that's kind of what I think. It's just lots of people talking at the same time and that's what I feel like my brain is a lot
Yeah.
of days.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. And that's such a great analogy. I love that so much because it's exactly that. And I think it's whatever works for you to be able to understand, like, am I in a space right now where there's lots of noise, like in a room full of people, or am I in the quiet room, and for whatever that might be for someone, whether it's that same analogy or something where it's like putting things in a box. Another one is like dumping all my mind stuff into a box and feeling like I put that box outside of the room or like outside of my physical space. Sometimes I'll imagine as though, if I have a lot of mind chatter, I'll imagine that I'm dumping all that into the box and I'm going to place that box physically outside of the room that I'm sitting in. I imagine that. And then that way it kind of sets that intention that I'm going to be clear for whatever it is that I have going on right now. So I think whatever visual way that we can connect that same idea to, that helps us to then be able to assess, am I in, like I said, in a room full of noisy people, or am I in the quiet room? And whatever works to help you to get there is the right path. There's no right or wrong when it comes to this stuff, you know?
I like the idea of putting everything in a box and placing it outside of the room. And I think that could be a good one for people who are, if you're new to meditating or new to this and it feels like, well, I can't just forget about all of my responsibilities, but it's like, you don't have to just put it all in a box for about 5 to 10 minutes and then you can go and get it again. So
Exactly. Yes,
we're
exactly.
not getting rid of anything. Let's just put it aside for a minute or 5 or 10,
Yes.
however long you can.
Yep. It's not going anywhere. So you'll be able to get right back to it in a second.
Yeah, it'll be there waiting for you, all of
Yeah,
it. So no worries.
exactly.
Great. Okay. So oh, I did want to ask you if there are, you mentioned a couple angels by name already, and I'm curious if there are any that you communicate with more frequently or any that sort of come to you more frequently. Are there and I don't know, how do you even know who's out there?
Yeah.
And are you ever like, hey, how come that guy never comes to talk to me? Is
Right. Yeah, I have thought that actually. So yes, I have thought that. And for me personally, one of the main archangels that has come through for me time and time again is Archangel Gabriel. He is one of the main ones that for me personally has just shows up constantly. And I almost feel like even in times when I if I feel uncertain or just in a space where I'm just like, ugh, like I don't know what my next step is, what to do, etc. It's like Archangel Gabriel is the one that I somehow lean into. And I think that when it comes to that, understanding of certain archangels are coming through more or less than others, I really feel like it depends on two things. One is your resonance with that particular angel. Of course, with angels, they are, of course, beings of light. They have a very high frequency, high vibration. And so they're all kind of in that category, if you want to call it that. But there's certain aspects of an angel that resonate more with us than other ones. So, for whatever reason, whatever your personality is, whatever it is that you're going through, whatever your soul's purpose is, different angels will resonate more with different people. So that's one thing is this innate resonance that exists. And then the second thing is that I feel like it also very much depends on where you're at on your journey. So for example, if you are going through a very intense healing chapter in your life. Maybe you're moving through grief. Maybe you're moving through heartbreak. Maybe there's something else going on. Whatever the thing is, there's going to be certain angels that will show up for you more often during that chapter in your life where you're moving through something or you're expanding in some way, whatever the case is, more so than other times in your life. So I view it as kind of just in general innate resonance, but then also what chapter am I going through? So, like I said, for me, Archangel Gabriel is the main one. I would say secondarily is Archangel Raphael. And then I've, talking to people, my clients, things like that, they have other angels that will come through more so for them. And I've had that question of like, why isn't that one coming in to talk to me? Like, what's up? What's happening here? And it just this understanding that if they're not coming through, it just means that they're not like I'm just there's just nothing there for them in particular to support me with at this time, that I'm receiving everything that I need from the angels that are here with me now. And this actually brings me to another point which I think is really important, because we can think of connecting with angels in two ways. One is kind of tuning in and saying, okay, who's coming forward for me today? How are you guiding me? That sort of a thing. And then there's the other way, which is we are directly calling on an angel. So instead of tuning in and seeing who's going to come forward and support me today, it's a thing of I'm going to call on Archangel Raphael. Like I'm not tuning in, I'm just calling on Archangel Raphael. He's going to be the one who supports me. And there's nothing, like both ways are great to support you. I would say when you're starting off, it can feel a little bit more what's the word I want to use? Almost like it can help deepen your trust or deepen your connection a little bit in that beginning stage of your journey when you are specifically calling on an angel, because then you know that you're creating a direct communication, direct contact with a specific angel. I think one of the things that holds people back, or not, maybe not holds them back, but maybe keeps them stuck in a loop of how can I trust this? Who do I don't know who this is that question of I don't know who this is. So how do I know that I can trust them? Going in that direction where people hesitate because they don't know who is coming through and they don't have a way to discern. So when it comes to deepening your connection, the first thing that I do suggest is pick an angel. Let's say we'll just use Archangel Raphael because he's been very present this whole conversation as an example. So let's say you want to call on Archangel Raphael. You can call on Archangel Raphael directly and ask him to be with you. And once you set the intention that you're calling on a specific angel, then you know that that angel is there. Like because you set the intention energetically, that's just how it is. So he's there. And so that way you know that he's there. And that way you can then begin to become aware of how he presents himself to you, how you feel his presence, how that shows up, so that later on, perhaps in your journey, when you're not calling on him, but all of a sudden he shows up, you're like, oh, that's Archangel Raphael. I already know that because I've been connecting with him for so long and I recognize it. Then, as you continue on your journey and maybe become more comfortable, whatever the case is, just more spiritually aware, then I would say it transitions into more of a who's coming in to support me today. beings of divine light and love, please come through and guide me today. And then, oh, Archangel Gabriel's here today. Okay. Hi. What are we doing today? How are you supporting me? And kind of moves into that type of energy. And that I feel comes with time as you deepen your trust.
So, thank you for that. And now, I'm curious, and you mentioned a few, and you talked about calling in specific angels. So, are there, I don't want to say this, there's certain things that each angel is sort of known for, like their strengths, or like, oh, I'm going through this, so I want to call. Like I've heard that Raphael is related to healing. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And that's why green is also associated with
Yes.
healing because he's green. Yeah. So what can you tell us about that? I've also heard there's another angel. Um, I can't remember which one, but that you call on when you've lost something and you're trying to find it. So anyway,
Uh,
can you talk about that a little bit? Like what their, I don't know, their strong suits are, or what, their
yeah.
expertise is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll name a few that come in as that support. So, yes, exactly like you said, Raphael with that healing energy and anything related to our heart. So, if you're healing from whether it's physical or emotional or also inner child type of stuff, I find that Archangel Raphael is very supportive with that type of energy. Archangel Gabriel, like I've been mentioning him, he is big with communication. So when it comes to communicating and also knowing your truth, so knowing your true self is a part of it. But then the other side of it is how can I express that and is my soul's expression wanting to come through and wanting to be received? How is it wanting to be expressed and then received in the world? So anything that has to do with communication and expression, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Michael is very much that like protective energy, but also he kind of nudges you to move past your comfort zone. So he's kind of one of those angels where he brings you strength and he brings you courage because oftentimes when we're pushing our boundaries or pushing our comfort zones, it's scary and we don't want to and we want to just like stay in the safety zone. So he brings in that kind of like strength and courage energy to help you to move past your comfort zone and try something new or step into the unknown or take a leap of faith or whatever kind of a thing like that. Archangel Shamuel, he's another one that I'll mention. And by the way, I'm saying this in an order where I feel their presence coming through. So I'm kind of just sharing what I feel and who wants to feel like who wants to make themselves known, I guess we can say. Like I'm feeling their energy coming through. And
Right.
Archangel
Some of
Shamuel
them are like, talk about me, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Archangel Samuel was like literally like, hanging out in the background. Like, are you gonna mention me now? Like, okay. So we'll mention him. He helps us with making decisions. Like when it comes to if you're like path A or path B, like what's my next step? He helps us to understand next steps, to make decisions that are aligned with our journey, things like that, where it's helping you to make a decision that's best for you. And the thing that I also want to mention with that is when it comes to asking for guidance, like that as an example of do I take path A or path B? Like, this is a major life decision. What's right for me? It's not that the angels will come in and be like, this is what you should do. They don't really tell us what to do. It's more so they help us to become aware of our own divine energy, our divine power, like what we are meant to know about ourselves so that we can make an internal decision that then aligns with our bigger purpose or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's more so if you're calling on Archangel Samuel, for example, it's less about, okay, what's the answer? Like, tell me what to do. And it's more so a help me to know the right decision for me. And so he'll help you to deepen into that. So I hope that distinction makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think it kind of goes back to your suggestion to feel into it. So,
Yeah.
it sounds like when you are asking for some help, for some guidance, then it seems like they can help you to feel what's more aligned. So
Yes.
which path is the right path? Well, if I give myself a minute and feel into it, this way feels like tense and icky, and this way feels a little more calm. So
Exactly.
I mean, that seems it's probably a very basic way to explain it, but that's what I was like kind of coming to me when you were speaking about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to exactly. That's the perfect way to describe it. And that's exactly that. It's almost like they will help amplify the energy so that it becomes more obvious to you or you just feel more certain in it. It's kind of like we call on them to help us to bring through what's already in us, but that maybe we've hidden away. Like I shared the example earlier about Archangel Michael and how he brings through strength and courage. And so it's not that you don't have courage inside of you or that you don't have strength inside of you. It's that maybe you just set it aside and you're very much in the energy of feeling disconnected or feeling like, no, I'm too afraid or whatever. So instead, he's helping you. It's almost like he's a mirror helping you to tap into the courage and the strength that already exists inside of you so that you can then make the move that is aligned for you. You know what I mean? So it's like they're mirrors to what is already inside of us and they help to draw it out and to help amplify what needs to be amplified so that we can heal, we can grow, we can make decisions, whatever the case is.
Yeah, I love both of those things that you said, that they sort of act as mirrors to show you what's already in you, and they amplify the energy. I think that's really cool, those 2 points.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
love that too. Yeah, I don't know that I've actually ever explained it in that way, but like similar concepts, but the way that it came out today, I love it too. So, yeah,
Someone
that's
came
exactly.
through and said, "Say it this way."
Yes, Archangel Gabriel, we'll give him the credit.
Yeah, so oh, before I forget. Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who, who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Yes, and actually, you know what? It's so funny because I was thinking about this and this quote popped out. And now, based on our conversation, I didn't know why, but I just thought this is going to be the quote that I'm going to share. And then now, based on our conversation, I feel like it's the perfect quote. It's such a beautifully aligned with what we're talking about. And it's a quote from Maya Angelou. And it's the one where she says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And it's kind of understanding this energy of how you feel in the presence of someone or people or environments or whatever situations that you're in. It's how you feel. And I when I heard that, I remember when I first heard that quote, I just thought, oh, that's so perfect because yeah, I sometimes forget what people said or I forget their name or forget something, but I will always remember how I felt in that moment with them. And I just love it. And it's one of the things that I strive to do in my work and how I show up and how I work with people is I just want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel that you belong. I want you to feel that you're not alone. And it doesn't matter what words I say to get you there, but I just want you to feel that. So I love that quote.
Yeah, I love that. And I've definitely heard that one, and I really appreciate your um I don't know if interpretation is the right word, but I guess just how it resonates with you.
Yeah.
So I like how you shared that, and I agree that there are plenty of people that I probably couldn't tell you their name, but if I imagine them, I would probably feel like one way or another. Like I'd
Yes.
feel happy, or I'd feel like meh, or I'd
Yeah.
feel a little
Exactly.
irritated.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I love that connection with that quote. It's really cool. Oh, I have one. Okay, this this is pretty cool. Okay. Behold the unfortunate human miracle. We have found a way to be inside an endless lake of holiness and not get wet.
Mm,
So that is Jaiya John. I love his work so much. And when I read that, I felt like, oh, like this is where we are. This is what people need to hear. Like it's all around you, available to you. And I
Yes.
think this is that reminder, like it's here. You're surrounded by it. You're surrounded by angels. They're all here ready to help you. But
Yes.
our human brains keep stopping us from
Exactly. Yeah.
enjoying it and accessing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that like so beautifully describes that. I love that so much.
Yeah, being in a lake of holiness and not getting wet.
Yeah.
That's what our human brains have done.
Yeah,
It's like blocked
exactly.
out all of this beautiful stuff
Yes.
that
Yes.
we could be connecting with. So but we're going to change that.
Yeah.
And I know you already are. So
Yeah.
um all right, so let's get into, you know what, I do have a question about and this is for my human thinking brain and for everyone else out there that's like, what angels? That's not real. From your perspective, how would you describe angels? Like, what
Mhm.
are they? Where did they come from?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think I mentioned it all like previously already in a way where it's kind of, for one, I see them as these balls of energy, balls of light. And I really feel like that's in a way what they are, just these light beings, these energies of light. And the way that I always describe it is I think about the divine. So whether you call it God or source or creator or any other name, I think of that energy as this big ball of light, this infinite love, which is where we come from. That's my belief that that's where we come from. It's this big ball of light. And from that big ball of light, that source, that God, whatever it is for you, there's these extensions of light that come out. So imagine that out of that big ball of energy, there's millions and millions and millions of extensions of energies that come out. And those represent our souls, but it also represents the angels. And that as these extensions of light, we just have different roles. So as a soul, you have a different role in the sense of you're here to grow, you're here to develop, you're here to bring through light and love in a physical form as a human being. And then angels, obviously, they're not physical form, they exist on the spiritual realm, but they are here to support us and they're here to guide us and they're here to facilitate and bring more awareness to our experience. So I see it kind of as, when we incarnate as humans, it's almost like we have a blindfold on because we forget that connection, we forget our purpose, we forget who we are, we forget all these things. And at some point in our journeys, hopefully we stumble upon spirituality, we stumble upon meditation, we stumble upon something, prayer, whatever it is that helps to bring back a remembrance. And so to me, the angels help that process. They help the remembrance, they help the healing, they help the growth. They're kind of like those guides on the path. They they can't tell you what to do or force you to do things, but they can put up big signs and be like, this way, over here, come over here, like do this thing, like that kind of a thing. And then it's up to us, our free will, if we choose to do that or not. We still have the free will, so no one's forcing you to do anything. But if you do the thing that they suggest or that they guide us towards, then that will always result in you feeling more aligned, feeling more fulfilled, feeling more at peace, feeling more joy, more love, all the things that we essentially seek on our journeys, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And when you just said that, all the things that we seek on our journeys, it's so interesting because it does feel like so many of us are always seeking, which really feels like effort. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, that just sort of reminded me how important it is to just allow, just
Yes.
be, and stop trying so hard.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think, where the word surrender really comes in, where you surrender to your spiritual path, to your divine path, however you want to call it. But to me, surrender isn't that you gave up. Like, it's not about, oh, I'm giving up. Like, forget it, or whatever. Surrender is I am handing over what my plan is, what I thought I should do, what I think is best, and I'm allowing myself, I'm open to what path the divine is wanting to guide me through, and what the divine has planned for me, what the divine's vision is for me in my life. And so it's kind of setting aside our timeline or our schedule and saying, okay, what do you have for me? Like, what do you think? And it's hard because of course, as humans, that requires us to trust on a deep level. It requires us to face the unknown. It requires all sorts of things like that from us. So it's a practice, I feel like surrender and just this allowing is a practice that we can get better at, but we're not meant to be perfect at it because, again, we're humans, so we're not going to be perfect at it.
Yeah. And I love that you said trust, because as soon as you said surrender, I was like, the things that come to mind for me are one, control, because you have to let go of it. And
Yes.
that's terrifying for most of us. And then trust, you have to trust something outside of you to take over. And those things are really hard and scary.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly. That's right. And we grow up
uh,
immediately, in a space where it's kind of like, you got to take control and you got to do, and you got to push and you got to do all these things where, it really is, it's to me, I think of it as rewiring our brain or rewiring our conditioning and how we our default setting, like what we're used to, what we learned growing up, and shifting into a new way or a different way of approaching these kinds of things, you know?
yeah. So, I mean, we touched on a few of these things, but just sort of to wrap it up and as sort of maybe a little summary or make it a little concise instructions for people, I guess you could say, how would you suggest to someone who's curious about this and they're thinking, okay, I'm open to this. I'd like to try to communicate with my angels maybe now and then. What would you say would be the first step to get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say the first step is to invite them into your life in whatever way feels best for you. I often find that the simplest way is through prayer. So really, and when I say prayer, it's not, it's just a really simple show of gratitude in a way where, for example, like praying to your guardian angels as an example and saying, guardian angels, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for supporting me. Please allow whatever, maybe you have a big meeting today. Please allow this meeting to work out for the highest good. Something like that, where it's just very simple, but just offering this gratitude, like, thank you for being with me and for showing up and helping to guide my life or whatever kind of a thing, whatever feels best, but something along those lines where you're literally, it all starts with opening up that line of communication. So whether it's a prayer that you say out loud, that you say in your head, or I find that the other thing that helps people is writing. Like sometimes I will write a prayer. I'll write it out as if, I have a journal where it's almost like I'm talking to them, but it's really me praying, and I do prayer in written form. So it honestly is whatever feels best for you. For some people, meditation would be another step, but I know that meditation can sometimes be a bit tricky because our mind starts to wander and it starts to go all over the place. So before meditation, I would say pray, like just praying and just inviting and just a simple acknowledgement of gratitude of thank you for being there, even if I can't see you, I don't hear you, I don't feel you, like I don't know what your name is, I don't know any of these things, but I know that you're there. So thank you for being with me today. And as simple as that.
I love that idea of starting with gratitude, because expressing gratitude for, let's say it's like you just some of the ones you just said, thank you for helping me get to work on time. Thank you for helping me, show up when my friend needed me. Or because what you're doing is acknowledging that there are forces beyond you, there are forces outside of you, and that you're not in control of everything. And
Exactly.
I feel like that is just this tiny little step toward surrendering and trusting those forces that are beyond us. So I love that idea of gratitude as just a simple way to start acknowledging and allowing.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And gratitude too is something that influences our frequency and our energy. So then as you're in that space of gratitude and acknowledgement, that the thing also, and this is what's coming through from them, is that it also activates your faith. Like they're coming through and they're saying, in your gratitude and in your acknowledgement, you are also increasing your faith because now you're putting your faith in something and you're saying, hey, like I acknowledge that you're here and thank you for that. And so as your faith increases, then that connection starts to become deeper. And then it's almost like you can't imagine life without like that, without that deep acknowledgement and awareness of the fact that they are there. And I think that about myself all the time when I think about what was my life like before this? Like I don't even remember anymore. You know, how did I operate in the world without praying to the angels and like knowing that they're there and having this connection with them? I forget what it was like. So it just begins to really shift how you approach your everyday life too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I think I could keep going, but I'm going to wrap it up. But
It's such an interesting conversation and so many amazing things to talk about.
I
This has
know,
been amazing.
really is. And I love it. And I thank you for everything you've shared. And I'd really love for you to talk about some of your offerings. So I've been to your website. Like I said, I signed up and I got the meditation. Your website is beautiful, by the way. Just really
Thank
beautiful. It
you.
just feels so like nice and warm and welcoming.
I'm so
and
glad.
there's a, I know you design this beautiful tarot card deck. You have a
Yes.
newsletter, you have a podcast. Like, tell us about all the things.
Yes, I will share all the things. Yeah, like you mentioned, I do have a website, just CristinaAroche.com, and on there I do have a bunch of free resources for anyone who is wanting to start off. So I have a free guided meditation where you can connect with your angels, meet them, and just kind of begin that process of knowing who's around you, receiving any messages from them. I do also have another free resources that's called My Archangel Guidance, where it's almost like an online, it's like a very basic online version of receiving an angel message, like almost like pulling a card, where you just really simply enter your name and email address, and then you receive an email that is a specific angel that's coming through for you, which is really cool. And then whatever message and guidance that they have to share. So that's another free resource. I do have an Oracle card deck. It's called the Archangel Oracle card deck. I actually have it here. I'll just show it real quick. So I created this about a year and a half ago. It's amazing, beautiful cards, beautiful artists who really channeled their energy through the cards, which has been amazing. That's been a huge feedback that people have shared is I can really feel the energy of the angels through this. So that's one way that you can also deepen your connection is, pulling a card and seeing which angel comes in and what message they have. Aside from that, I do have a YouTube channel, so you can find me on there. It's Cristina Aroche channel. If you search that on YouTube, or I'm sure if you search my name, you'll find me on YouTube. Lots of videos there, resources to help you in learning more about angels, each one. I have a specific video, multiple for some of them, of specific angels. So I dive deep into Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael and all the different angelic beings that exist. And yes, I am a co-host to the Angelic Frequency podcast. So that is available wherever you listen to podcasts. It's also on YouTube. And yeah, there's a lot going on, but if you come into any of those resources, tap in anything that, all that information that I do share online, then, you follow me on YouTube or Instagram, then you'll be up to date with all the things that I have going on. So,
Awesome. And I have to apologize because I called that a tarot card deck and it's different. So What is the difference between that and an oracle card deck? Because I'm not familiar with.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, I've
yeah.
heard of them both, but I didn't even notice. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no. It's all good. It's all good. You're not the first person who said that. And I
Okay.
think that the main thing between the tarot and the oracle is that tarot follows specific how do I say, like specific cards and meanings, and it's just that people have there's so many different types of tarot simply because of I feel like the design and maybe how they explain the message, but it really follows the same type of guideline or same type of energy when it comes, I'm not quite familiar with
Mm.
all the cards, but there's like something cups, and
Yeah.
like whatever things. And so it's very specific to that. When it comes to an oracle card deck, it moves beyond that and they're more just whatever the card deck is about. So in my case, it's about obviously the archangels and delivering messages from the angels. So an oracle deck can really be about whatever specific topic. So I've seen some that are like spirit animal oracle card deck. So it's like what spirit animal is with you kind of a thing. So that's the main difference between the two.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. And also, I wanted to ask you about one-on-one sessions. Do you do?
Yes, I
Okay. So
do.
tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So I have the angel reading sessions that are available. And when it comes to angel readings, it really is just whatever you want to focus on. So, for example, some people might book an angel reading and it's focused on, I want to learn about my guardian angel. So, in those guardian angel readings, it's like, I'm like, we're sitting and I'm just going through each one and like so much information comes through. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm going to talk a lot for a second, but for the next 20, 30 minutes. But it's because so much information comes through. And so I really go in depth one by one about each guardian angel, who they are, their names, their purpose, how to call on them, how to work with them, etc. But sometimes people want an angel reading because they're seeking more of, let's say, guidance or wanting to move through a particular block or a particular area where they feel stuck. So then we're more focused on the things that is are coming through from the angels to support them to move through something, to elevate into somewhere. Sometimes we do past life readings. So the angels can really support many different areas when it comes to our life. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. So I have it as a general one-on-one angel reading session, and then you can choose. I have like a thing there where you can choose, like, this is what I want to focus on. So that's available on my website too.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I'll put all your contact information in the show notes so people can find you and learn more about their angels. So,
Amazing. Thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. It's so cool to be able to share about the angels and it was fun to see which angels really came through and what messages they wanted to share. So this was great. Thank you so much for having me.
yeah. Oh, thank you for taking time to chat with me. It was really enlightening. And yeah, I appreciate you and what you're doing for the world. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And for everyone listening or watching, you are enough, just as you are, and you are loved. Make a great day.